Choosing a home has got to be one of the biggest, most stressful decisions we ever make. I mean, the price tag is just massive, right? In the US, the average house costs more than 7 times the median yearly income. So naturally, we spend hours and hours just endlessly searching for that perfect place.
But let me ask you something. While you're obsessing over square footage and the kitchen countertops and the commute time, how much do you really think about the people who are going to be living right next door? They're a huge part of your daily life, but so often they're just an afterthought.
So, that begs the question, who actually cares the most about their potential neighbors? The answer might seem pretty obvious at first glance.
Your gut instinct, right, is probably to say, well, duh, it's the highly social people, the ones who really value community and relationships. That makes perfect sense. But what if I told you that intuitive assumption is completely wrong? And this is where we get into some really fascinating new research that just flips that whole common sense idea right on its head.
A recent study in the Journal of Consumer Psychology decided to dig into this very question. And what they found was, well, let's just say it was the complete opposite of what you'd expect.
Get this. The research found that it's people with a more independent mindset, those who see themselves as unique individuals, who actually place more importance on who their potential neighbors are. The exact opposite of what we all thought. And look, this wasn't some fluke. The researchers were pretty clear about it. As you can see from this quote, across 7 different studies, the results all pointed in the same direction. Independent-minded folks consistently cared more. So, the big question is, why? Well, to understand this, we need to talk about a core concept in psychology that explains how we see ourselves in relation to everyone else. It's a concept called self-construal. Now, that sounds a little academic, but all it really means is, do you see yourself primarily as a distinct individual or as someone who's fundamentally connected to a group? This slide breaks it down perfectly. On one side, you've got the independent self-construal. This is more common in Western cultures. It's all about seeing yourself as separate, valuing your own uniqueness. Think I. On the other side, you've got the interdependent self-construal, which is more common in Eastern cultures. This view sees the self as connected to others, and it values group harmony. Think we. And that little difference between I and we, well, that's the key to this whole puzzle. So how does this I versus we mindset explain who cares about neighbors? It all boils down to how we think about our social circles and where we look for connection. Now, it's really important to get this. This isn't about one group being social and the other being antisocial. Not at all. Everyone has a fundamental need to belong. The real difference is how each group goes about fulfilling that need. Okay, let's start with the interdependent view, the we people. For them, their social needs are already being met by a really strong existing in-group of family and close friends. Their social bucket, so to speak, is already full, so they tend to see potential neighbors as part of the outgroup. They're not being unfriendly, they're just less motivated to go out and turn a bunch of strangers into new best friends. But now, let's look at the independent view, the I people. Because they define themselves separately from their core group, they're much more open to fulfilling their social needs with new people. They look at neighbors and don't just see strangers. They see an opportunity, a whole pool of potential friends and new connections. They're actively looking to grow their social world. All right, so the theory is that independent people are basically scouting for new friends when they look at a neighborhood. It's a great theory, but how do we know it's really true? Well, the researchers came up with some really clever studies to test. They gave people a really interesting choice. Imagine you're looking at 2 apartments. In one, the neighbors are really similar to you, same age, same interests. In the other apartment, the neighbors are better on paper. They have higher incomes, more education, but you don't really have much in common. Which one do you pick? And the results were just striking. Look at this chart. A whopping 77% of the independent-minded people chose the similar neighbors. For the interdependent group, it was basically a coin flip. This is some seriously powerful evidence that for independent folks, it's all about finding friends. So the real takeaway here is this. Independent people aren't just looking for someone who's quiet and won't be a pain. They are actively screening for friendship potential. They are willing to trade away objective status for the chance to build a genuine connection. Another study showed that they're also really specific about what kind of similarity they care about. As you can see here, they prioritize what you'd call friendship-relevant traits, things like shared hobbies or a similar lifestyle. Things like demographic similarity or that objective status like income, much less important. It's really all about finding that common ground to build a friendship on.
So, this is more than just a quirky psychological finding, right? This actually has some really practical implications for how we buy and sell homes, and maybe even for how we design our communities.
So what can we take away from all this? Well, for starters, if you're a home buyer, this is a great chance for a little self-reflection. How much you care about your future neighbors might just reveal something about your own psychological makeup. Are you just hoping for peace and quiet, or are you secretly screening for your next social circle? For real estate agents, this is a huge insight. Don't just talk about the granite countertops. Sell the potential for connection. Mentioning the annual block party could be the thing that closes the deal. And finally, for city planners, this offers a new approach. If you want to get people involved, maybe stop using we so much. Try framing things from an individual's point of view. A flyer that says, you could meet some new friends at the park cleanup might work a whole lot better than one that just says, we need your help.
So, the next time you're scrolling through those real estate listings, just take a second. Are you looking for a quiet street? Or are you secretly hoping to find your next best friend living right next door? Because what your ideal neighborhood looks like, well, it might just say a whole lot more about you than you think.